Hi, Ben here from Gwinear Angling, and welcome to the Gwinear Guide to Fistral Bay. Alright, so I bet many of you out there already know Fistral as one of the UK's most famous places for surfing. But there's plenty to it fishing wise as well. In fact, the general bay area has a lot of different environments in it. Lots of different marks, from rocky platforms to the beaches to little gullies and fingers of rock. There's lots of interesting places to fish out here. If there's one particular bit that interests you, I've chaptered all this, so you can just skip to that if that's what you want. But we're going to start here at Splash Point just behind me, work our way all around the bay to Little Fistral right at the other end. So there's loads to get through, so let's get started. Okay, so we're at Splash Point. A little bit of confusion about this is there's a mark further out that some people call Splash, but this is the one that I was told was Splash when I was a kid, and I believe it because when you get a rough sea here, the plumes of spray come right over the top of this. It's quite an impressive sight, so this is definitely Splash Point to me. Anyway, it's a really good mark for fishing. You get all sorts here, right? It's particularly well known for bass. I fished here a lot for flatfish, especially plaice. You can pick up fish like ray, occasional smooth hounds. In the winter you get decent whiting, some codlin here, and of course there's dogfish at all times of year. And this is a really good mark for mackerel as well. Particularly, this is probably one of the better marks in Fistral Bay, if I'm honest. You can feather here, you can float fish as well. I really like to float fish this one because you get some nice gars as well. Really nice little mark, very comfortable. There is a few safety issues. There's a fair drop from the rock to the water, from the end of the rocks to the water. So I'd be wary of that. Wear spike boots here. Definitely consider wearing a life jacket, and take care in all weathers, especially when it's a little bit rainy or there's a little bit of sea spray on the rocks because they can get a bit slick. So tide-wise, what I would suggest here is most of the sort of general fishing is best over high water. It likes a big tide, this one. It's definitely better on the springs. What you can find with the bass fishing is, especially on the ebb, sort of mid-tide, even a little bit further down, can fish really well when you're in the back of that surf. And although it seems like the fishing's over and there's not that much water there, you can make some really good catches there. So be wary of that, especially at night. Just take care when you are landing fish here, because there are some, right now you can see them, there's some big rocks, big mussel covered rocks here that when you get a fish in close and it goes to the bottom, there's been some really good fish lost down there, so take care of that. And of course when lifting fish, sometimes, especially over those lower water periods, if you bass fishing say, you will have to lift those fish up, and some lovely fish have been lost here over the years from coming adrift on that lift, so take care. But in general, this is a really nice spot. Definitely one of my favourite marks. I mean, I lived up there for just about 20 years and I fished this a lot, so it's a mark that has a lot of fond memories for me. One I know quite a bit about, so if you do want to know more about it, come and find me in the shop or send me a message and I'll be happy to fill you in. It's a really fantastic mark and I like to see people enjoy it. Okay, so I'm just on my way down to the beach, and I thought I'd stop to show you this one. There's a flat platform of rock down there that's quite a useful mark. You get mackerel off there over high tide, you get some bass there, turbot sometimes, that sort of thing. If you're into the dark art of LRF rock pool fishing, these ones down here are really worth a go. There's some rather large surprises in there. Okay, so I've come down closer to the beach, and just behind me here are lots of little fingers of rock and gullies and that lend themselves really well to lure fishing for bass. And that's typically what people are fishing around here these days. You can bait fish for them, but lure fishing is probably a more effective, a more fun way of covering the water. So that's what most people are doing these days. Lure-wise, you're looking at your sort of surface lures, shallow divers, and of course your sort of soft plastic eels like your Savage eel and your West Indian Sandy Andes. They'll all do well out here. And typically, mostly smaller bass. There's a lot of schoolies around here, but you do get some nice ones here as well. So, you know, be prepared. Your next take could be a decent bass. But it's a lovely place to go and pick along. You can work your way all the way around to the beach, following from sort of mid-tide up to high water, and that's a really fun session. And the back tide can fish well here as well, so you can get a good long session here and have a really fun day, hopefully some fish. So I hope you're enjoying the video so far. If you'd like to support our channel, please give the video a like and hit that subscribe button. If you're in the Newquay area looking to do some fishing, come into the shop at Gwinear. It's the #1 place in the area for fresh bait, quality tackle and sound local advice. See you in there. Okay, so now we're on the beach itself, the mighty expanse of Fistral. And it can be a bit daunting when you first come down here looking for a place to fish, but in reality most people sort of choose either the south or the north end here. They've both got nice rock features that will draw lots of fish in, and you tend to find those pretty reliable. Right now, however, and at other times that I've seen before, there's a lovely patch of rock exposed right in the middle, and there's some beautiful little gullies and channels in there that would be an absolute bass magnet, and that would be a good one to fish right now and at other times when it's there. Typically, Fistral is a bass beach. You do get a lot of bass here. A lot of them are small, but you do get some really nice ones here, and there's been some big bass here in the past, so always worth persevering and putting out a big meaty bait just in case there's a lunker around. More and more these days, we're seeing small-eyed ray turn up on this beach too, which is, just depending on your point of view, is a welcome addition to the, well, for more generalist anglers like myself, it's nice to see them. If you're a dedicated bass guy, you might get a bit miffed if you start catching a few, but there you go. You do get other fish here as well. You get the occasional turbot, you get doggies here. You stand a very small chance of something like a flounder or something like that, but in the main part it's bass and the occasional ray really is what we're seeing these days. You can fish at either low tide or high tide here. It produces all the way through, although typically I would go for either a session either side of low or a session either side of high. The middle can often go quiet in my experience, although yeah, your mileage may vary there. But yeah, it's a great beach, typically best fished at night because obviously there's a lot of surfers in the day. It's got a big following among surfers, so typically you'll have a hard time fishing here in the day, but at night it can be excellent. Okay, so we're just by the rocks at the top of North Fistral. This is another really popular area for lure fishing for bass. Typically you've got a lot of these sort of rocky areas with sandy gullies in between. There's some rough patches as well as you go all the way around from North Fistral towards Little Fistral over there. There's a lot of these little rocky promontories and sandy gullies in between, and they all produce bass and they're all really good for lure fishing. Typically you fish this over high water, slightly either side. It's quite shallow, so you want sort of shallow diving lures, surface lures and soft plastics that don't go too deep, because you're actually fishing over snags in some points, so if you've got a lure that goes too deep you can have an expensive time. But it does produce some nice bass, and it likes the spring tide, but you can fish here at all sorts of tides really, and you all sort of stand a good chance of a bass. So really popular area, and rightfully so. It's a good one for lure fishing. Okay, so just a quick one about parking in the Fistral Bay area. South Fistral isn't really a problem. You can park all the way along Esplanade Road for free at the moment. I say at the moment because there's talks about changing that, but at the moment it's still free, so you shouldn't have any trouble there. North Fistral, there is a car park right down by the beach, but it is extraordinarily expensive to park there, and I would personally avoid that in favour of parking at the Dane Road car park, just as you would if you were fishing the headland or the fly sellers. Okay, so we've reached the end of our journey across Fistral Bay, and we've ended up here at Little Fistral. Another really good bass venue, particularly on the lures, although you can bait fish it as well. You can drop a nice big lump of crab or a mackerel fillet in one of these gullies, and you stand a good chance of catching a nice bass. But it's lures that rule the roost here, and you've got a variety of water depths to go out here as well. You can get on these rocky promontories out there and you can fish your sort of metals and deeper diving lures if you want to, as well as your more standard stuff like your surface lures, you know, shallow divers, soft plastics, that sort of thing. Lends itself well to whatever style of lure fishing you want to do. So I hope you've enjoyed this Gwinear guide to Fistral Bay. If you have, why not check out another in our Gwinear guide series? If you've got any questions, just pop them in the comments below, or you can message us, or even better, pop into the shop and one of us answer your question in person. But until the next time, cheers.